Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome. This is Second Contact, a Lower Decks commentary podcast. My name is Charlene Schmidt, and with me, as always, is
Tristan Riddell.
Tristan Riddell. We are back for another episode. This episode is called Of Gods and Angels. Love the play on that title. And I'm very curious to know what you think about this one because, spoiler alert, this one was a little bit of a journey for me between first and second viewings.
Well, I want to hear about that as we continue on to do our commentary. Because I had mixed feelings about this one too. Like there were parts that there was aspects I really liked of it, and there were parts where I'm just kind of like, oh, that's a little weird, but all right.
Yeah. I'm totally with you on this. So we're going to have to compare notes. But before we do, let's tell everybody what it is exactly that we do here, just in case this is the very first time you're listening to this podcast. What we do is a commentary track to the Lower Decks episode. And it's cool if you are just strolling around in the car, if you're taking the bus or what have you. It helps if you've seen the episode, but we'll try to keep you entertained no matter what we do. But if you want to sync up with us and watch the episode, what we do is we, get Lower Decks however you do. We don't judge. And then go past the CBS screen where it fades to black, hit the pause button right there, and that's where we're going to begin. So, Tristan, before we get going, the episode descriptions as of late have been a little interesting. What do they say about this one?
This one is described as Mariner teams up with a troubled ensign while the Cerritos host peace talks between civilizations. See, this one is really straightforward. You'd think it sounds straightforward.
Yes.
But this in no way describes how crazy the episode actually is.
Honestly, I really wish they would have reached for the crazier stuff because that description is boring.
There's very low-level sci-fi stuff where just like, oh, okay, hangs out with an ensign, peace talks, Star Trek. Yeah, tip of the iceberg.
Well, I was getting my hopes up that there would be something really good this week, and now that I'm disappointed, let's watch the episode. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, we'll give you a countdown. It'll be 3, 2, 1, play. And when I say play, we all hit play. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. So this nebula reminds me of Prodigy. Very vibrant color palette. Many shades of purple. I appreciate that.
That's true. Prodigy definitely does have that, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely. Yeah, their color palette. Oh, it's so much fun watching them play on it too, because they definitely go for moods with their color schemes and communicate very clearly how we should feel about things.
Now, this is the very definition of monoculture in this episode with cubes and orbs. I mean, that's one thing about Star Trek that gets a common criticism. This is definitely the epitome of that. And also on the ensign is stacking all that stuff on the gravity sled, and you can see Worf's chair in the midst of that, his black ball whatever chair that he perches on.
Yeah, his ball chair.
Yeah, the orb chair. I guess we should
that's what
call
it is.
There's a Tongo wheel.
All sorts of crazy stuff. So, okay, this is not the most original story. Neither plot. These are both recycled things, and it's almost like they've doubled down on the recycled TNG plot for this episode. What do you think about that?
Actually, the one of the first things that I thought about was there was a Rick and Morty episode last year it was probably their worst episode. Honestly, like out of every episode, I think it was probably their worst episode where it was numbers versus letters. Like it was a species of numbers called the Numericons, and I can't remember what the letters were called, but it felt kind of like this, where it's just like, oh, cubes and orbs don't like each other because they look different, and it was kind of the same silly. I'm not saying it was like a ripoff, but it's just it's immediately what I think of, and
they sound very familiar. Yeah. And Mike McMahon has worked on Rick and Morty, yes? So is it possible they twisted this? Like, are these things related? Possibly.
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's a sci-fi trope. I don't think it was real. I honestly don't think it was related. I don't think someone saw that was just like, oh yeah, let's do that. I honestly think it's just one of those basic level old school sci-fi tropes. It's kind of like the black on the left side and white on the right side people.
Yeah,
in
very
the original
basic,
series.
Very in your face.
Yeah, very in your face. And then speaking of TOS, we have
yes.
A Greek god descendant as the ensign. They called her a demigod or something like that, and which is a hilarious and classic TOS episode because it's just like, oh yeah, Greek gods are totally real. Moving on.
Totally. Yep. And as we know, the Greek gods had a lot of kids, and she is a descendant. I was excited about the possibilities in this plot because I loved that they called back to this episode of TOS, and I thought, okay, what are they going to do here? I want to know. But as you can probably already tell, I am not like, this is the most predictable story. It went through all the motions that you would possibly expect. And this seems to me like it was a held over episode of Lower Decks from maybe 2 seasons ago, where it might have been a more pivotal moment for Mariner to take the lead and mentor somebody who is basically in the same spot where she started in season 1. But has she not grown past that now?
I think that's the thing, is that like I kind of got eye rolly with that too, especially towards the end when they threw in the brig and the demigod ensign was, spouting off all the things that, Beckett has said throughout the series. And I mean, I was getting tired of this by season 3, where I'm glad that right. I'm glad that Mariner wasn't the one doing this stuff, but at the same time, it was like, we get it. She's grown. She's different. Let's not have a Mariner duplicate to show how much she's grown. Let's just let her grow and let her change and move on. Like, we only have 4 episodes left, guys. Like, let's
Exactly. Yeah, we really don't need this. And we have such scarce few episodes where, hey, you know what? If you were doing 26 of these a season, by all means, do a filler episode. We just don't get those anymore. But when you only get 10, guys, we can't.
I think that's one of the things is, I feel like, and I know you didn't mean this, but I feel like filler episodes get a bad rap. Because we're in such...
and I'm not trying to knock on filler. Yeah.
And I know that. And let me try to explain myself. So, like with filler episodes, I feel like we need a new terminology for it, because filler episodes, or at least what used to be filler episodes, could have been bottle episodes, character-driven episodes, something that didn't move along the overall season-long arc. And this was before we even had season-long arcs and everything like that. I feel like we need a new terminology, because this episode, I mean, I don't care if it moves along the plot of the season at all. This episode felt like it was spinning its wheels. It's like, we're not really getting any character growth. We're not even really getting any really cool character moments. Boimler is ridiculous. I don't know. It just, it didn't move the plot forward. And also at the same time, I didn't feel like we were getting any really cool integral moments between the characters.
What I do like about this episode is that it does have some funny moments. Like, I do like the little joke about how everybody comments on the beveling on the alt universe Boimler's pad, and not that it's red. They're like, oh, okay, that's funny. That's great.
That's also very classic.
Toward the very end, when things get really freaky and crazy, look, I love Dr. T'Ana. She is me on this show. And if I were a doctor. But aside from that, like, these are not long-lasting things that are going to make an impact, I feel like, on the whole series. You know what I mean? Like, there's some moments that are just like that, but also not moving the story forward and kind of regressive in nature.
Yeah. I guess I'm just... I'm just so disinterested by this character, and I think that's really... it's a poor thing to say when you have a literal demigod. And you're like, what a boring character. Like that's a sad state to be in.
Well,
now what we find out later is that this photonic residue
yeah,
is not something you want to be touching.
No. Which would be worse, that or holodeck waste cleanup? Because it's kind of the same
I feel like this honestly would be worse, because at least with holodeck waste cleanup, like you could imagine that it's just reprocessed protein or something like that. With this one, you're just like, nope, that is on the walls. That is that.
Yeah. You just hope that doesn't leave a stain permanently.
So this is one of those things where, like the person who's along for the investigation knew the entire time what was going on. And it does a huge disservice. Yeah, it does a huge disservice to the character that you're introducing and also the characters around you. So, and also at the same time, why are we introducing a new Cerritos crew member this late in the game?
Seriously. So if they're going to go somewhere with this, they're going to have to move fast. And do we care? Because this is just Mariner 1.0 with some like Nerf ball, like lightning throwing powers.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that like it's a character we've seen before from the main character that we actually care about, and on top of that, it's we don't have time to flesh her out. Like, just imagine if they introduced T'Lyn this late in the game.
Oh, speaking of which, she is hardly in this episode, and that is just a shame.
I think that's the thing, is that like we're going at this episode pretty hard. Like, we're hitting it really hard.
We are, and I'm going to have nicer things to say later. But we should do a Boimler check-in, because the beard is growing. It is starting to fill out just a little bit more. Just a tiny bit more on the chin, just a little bit more on the sides filling in. And look, I also feel like Boimler's plot here is also regressive. Like, what is this weird... He's had this self-esteem issue for how long now? And I guess it's like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation with both him and Mariner, where they're going to grow a little bit, then they're going to regress a tiny bit, and then have to grow again and regress. And I get that. Progress is not just like this direct linear upward movement, but on a TV show, and especially with only 10 episodes a season, man, again, time is a wasting. I really don't know where they're going with
That's why we're coming at it so hard. Yeah. I think...
Well, and the pressure is on, and this is the last season. They knew it was the last season. So like, it just feels like, guys, what are you doing here? Maybe we're missing the whole point. Maybe this connects to something later on that we have no idea is coming. I would love it if that happens. But do I think it's going to? I really don't know. This might be one of the most forgettable episodes of Lower Decks we ever get.
Which is such an insane concept when you think about the premise behind it. Like orbs and cubes fighting and trying to get to peace talks, and then they end up making a new life form. And there's a demigod that's a descendant of Zeus, on the ship, and we're just kind of like, boring.
Yeah, like on paper, this sounds crazy, but the best thing that happens in this episode is toward the end. And it's because I'm a Beavis and Butthead fan. I'll explain later.
I figured that would come about later. So
absolutely.
If we don't get Boimler with a full beard by the last episode, I'm going to be...
what are we doing here?
What are we doing here, folks?
No, if that does not happen, I really don't know what this was all for. Would that just not be the most, like, the biggest letdown they could possibly give us, is like at the very last episode, he just decides to shave it all off? Oh God, what if he does? What if he really does do that?
That'll be a nail in the coffin for this season for me.
I don't know how I feel about that.
One thing I did like is
signify possibly like, I'm comfortable with myself. I don't need to try and be like this guy anymore. I could totally see that happening. But at the same time, I think
that is what's going to happen. I think he is going to grow the full beard, and it's going to show that like his confidence is there. He's a good officer now, and I think what's going to happen is like he'll probably get promoted or like have some sort of leadership position bestowed upon him, and he'll shave it off, saying, I don't need the beard anymore. I'm comfortable with myself. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But one thing what I was going to say was, is that all of the regular cast members were cubes and spheres, like their voices were cubes and spheres in this episode. And I love trying to figure out, like, oh no, that's the guy who plays Rutherford, that's the woman who plays Tendi. It's just, I love that stuff.
Yeah, I did not catch on to that first time around, and so realizing that second time around was a lot of fun. And I don't know if I even got through everybody, but it just, that kind of clicked in the second journey. And watching this episode a second time around was actually a lot more enjoyable than the first time, because all I could think about was just how boring these plots were. Like, story-wise, where are we going? What are we doing with this? Second time around, knowing that was happening, I just sat back and I watched the funny moments and enjoyed it for that. So if you watched this episode and just thought, this is so dumb, well, now Dr. T'Ana is just absolutely whooping the crap out of Boimler, and I'm enjoying this because this is such a cat fight where it's complete with like a little butt shake and everything, just like a cat does before it pounces. And I appreciate that as a cat owner.
I was actually going to ask you about that, about, like, you're a big Dr. T'Ana fan, so what did you think about her reaction to Boimler? Like, with Boimler swearing at Dr. T'Ana, like, it's one of those things where she can dish it out, but she can't take it.
Well, I mean, but cats are very temperamental. So she turned on him, and cats will certainly teach you about boundaries and accepting those boundaries. I don't think it's very realistic that a Starfleet officer would actually get away with what Dr. T'Ana just did to Brad Boimler. But for the sake of Lower Decks, the fact that this is a show that really plays off of exaggerations, why not? Tear his shirt up. Make him suffer. Why not? This is the Boimler. Like, Boimler must suffer. He is the whipping boy of this show. That's why he screams almost every single time. He's
definitely the O'Brien of Lower Decks.
Yeah.
There was one Boimler joke, we probably missed it, where Ransom was on the comm and said, like, hey, the cubes are having a problem with Protocol 10 because the 0 is too round in it. Like, I lost it. Like, that's the kind of joke that I feel like they could have expanded on a little bit more. Like, it kind of makes me think of that Futurama episode where like the enemy was bouncing balls on a planet, and it was just rife with double entendre for the entire episode. And like it ended, like the biggest joke was like Bender saying, "These balls are making me testy." And I wanted to lean in the ridiculousness of it a little bit more.
Yeah, why didn't they do that? Now that might have been fun.
Less demigod, more ridiculous cube and sphere puns.
Yeah, just lean into it if that's what you're going to go with. I completely agree. One thing to watch for, though, is this character's eyes. Knowing second time around that she's responsible, it is fun. She's such a tell. You know?
Oh, yeah? What do you mean?
She overreacts in a way. Her eyes give away that she's behind this whole problem.
Or at least is aware.
Like, if you watch that very first scene where they're in the quarters and she's just like, oh, goodness, what happened? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can totally see it. Here's another thought. I'm not sure how I feel about a failed demigod. Just generally speaking. What are you doing with that? Where's that going? I mean, is she trying to prove herself in some other way? See, I got nothing.
I guess it's I don't know. Like, it's all of a sudden she says that her powers are crappy, but then all of a sudden she rises up in the air and halts all of these, people shooting weapons. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm at a complete loss as far as that goes.
It's almost like, and Boimler gets a lightning bolt in the butt. I actually thought of you when Boimler got a lightning bolt in the butt. I was like, I bet Char thought that was hilarious.
by far my favorite part of the episode, maybe tied with the cat fight, but the reason why I love, Butt Boimler and this whole thing here is because of Beavis and Butthead. As I mentioned earlier, there is an episode of Beavis and Butthead called Butt Flambe, where Beavis and Butthead report to the emergency room because Beavis has an explosive in his rear end and needs it removed. So there is an actual scene in this episode where he is on the table getting examined and whatever's up his butt detonates. And so there's this big flame coming out of his butt and launches him like a rocket on this wheeled table across the room. And it makes me think of this.
I think some of my favorite moments are just the little comments we get from Ransom. Like when all the orbs join together and create one giant orb, and all the cubes get together and create one giant cube. He's like, "Oh my god, they're just doing that. Like they're not creative at all." And like he says it while he's screaming.
Kind of feels like this episode, guys. Although you know what else that made me think of? Did you ever play that game Agario?
No.
Oh, okay. It's like where the little circles, you start eating littler circles than you, so you become a bigger circle, and then eventually somebody can decimate you because you get too big, and then you just have to start all over. It was a great game. It was a great distraction.
I've played games like that
10
before.
Years ago.
That's a pretty. I'm not saying this to be dismissive, but that's a pretty common game mechanic. So I've definitely played something similar to that. Which
sure.
I like it. I like that kind of stuff too. I think when they say like, like when Ransom said like, oh, that's not creative at all. It's definitely a TV trope of lampshading, where they're trying to excuse their lack of creativity by explaining it. And also, speaking of TV tropes, we have a literal Deus Ex Machina with the ensign, using her god powers in order to halt the fight. Oh man, you and I just didn't like this episode, did we?
You know what? No, overall, this is a very weak episode of Lower Decks. I mean, this might be my least favorite episode of Lower Decks that we have seen. And the fact that it's in the 5th and last season, I think doubles down on the disappointment. If this had been season 2, I don't think we would care. We would have moved on and no big deal. But that's not the case, which is why we are so passionate about it.
You hit it on the nail on the head. That's exactly why. If this was season 2, would be like, okay, that was kind of weird. That was, and also the Mariner 1.0 might have been a little bit more of a reflection on her in season 2, where it's just like, oh man, do I really sound like that? Like, do I act like that? Maybe I need to get my act together. Now it's just a nuisance, and it's time away from the group, from the core Lower Deckers that we're missing. And and then of course the the surgery scene.
Yes, the surgery. Well, and also, what did you think of Dr. Ta'ana's nickname for Boimler? Because he did finally get one.
I think it was very Ta'ana-esque. We can't repeat it on the show, but it's very Ta'ana-esque.
Not without making you put in the bleep, and I'll spare you the edit.
Please don't, because I don't have a lot of time to edit today, so please don't swear.
I am sorry. Okay. Well, be nice this week. I think a couple weeks ago, I really made you do some work.
I had 3 in a row. I almost said it on the show. Like, sure, stop.
I didn't know if you were going to bleep them all.
So I do like that. I like the idea of Boimler having a friendship or relationship with Dr. Ta'ana. I think it's unlikely, and it's something I would have liked to have seen earlier. Kind of like how Boimler got a relationship with Shax.
Exactly.
It would have been cool to see that. Maybe even the 3 of them together. That could have added some awkward encounters and some really comedic moments.
Honestly, I hope that is what's coming, is he becomes the third wheel because they've got their weird, romance going on. Maybe he sees just a little too much of things he never wanted to see. I mean, I would love that for Boims and us.
I think this is one of those episodes where when you're doing a rewatch and you're just like marathoning it, you're just binging it through, it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You have all the episodes, you're just going through, but you just feel
really have
like
to...
you're so anxious because we have so few left, as we've said many times. And I think this is the moment that really pissed me off. This ending scene where I'm like, God dang it, just move the hell on. I'm so sick of the Mariner as a screw-up trope, and now we're transferring it to somebody new.
Right. Okay, do we really need to repeat this cycle at this point? I thought we'd move past this finally. You know, because Mariner has spun her wheels on this whole thing, but is she just not as far ahead as I guess we would like her? I mean, the writers really do seem to be going back and forth on that with both her and Boimler, and just, guys, I feel like they have dropped the ball a little bit on that. They have grown up somewhat, but I also want them to stop regressing them to make them have to learn the same lessons over and over.
All right, folks, so that was our episode, and we hope you enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy the episode that much, even if we didn't enjoy the episode that much. But if you did, we want to know why. No, it's dead serious. We want to know why. If you thought this was like one of the greatest episodes ever, we want to hear it from you guys. So go to thenerdparty.com/contact, select second contact, and fill out the form. It'll send us an email. You can also find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Nerd Party. You can find us on Twitter at Join the Nerd Party. And we're also developing a Blue Sky account, so that'll be coming up soon. And that'll be at The Nerd Party. And you can find me on Blue Sky at The Insane Robin. And Shar, where can we find you?
Yeah. theprofanity.com. I got verified, baby.
Woohoo! Yeah, I'm The Insane Robin at thenerdparty.com because I own the domain. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you listen to us next week as we continue on with Lower Decks.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.